Hi everyone, welcome back to FPL Moneyball, where we use data analysis to find the best players for your fantasy Premier League teams. Today we'll be doing a Game Week 12 team selection and preview video, where we'll be looking at the best defenders to replace Gabriel, who is out on an injury until an unknown return date. So stay tuned to find out more about the defensive options. Let's jump right into the top forwards to select for this game week. So for the forwards, there are three main standout options for me: Haaland, João Pedro, as well as Thiago from Brentford. Haaland shows the highest expected goal involvement per 90 of 1.13, whereas Thiago and João Pedro provide more budget options and have around half the amount of expected goal involvement compared to Haaland. But these are the top three players in terms of balancing out the amount of XGI as well as the PPM among the other forwards, which I'll be sharing more about later. So the tier 2 bucket will be some other options here, four of them mainly. Mateta from Crystal Palace, Danny Welbeck, Richarlison, and Isidore. Mateta has received similar goal scoring opportunities compared to Haaland, and even costs much cheaper than Haaland, but despite the opportunities he has received, he has not managed to convert these opportunities into points. And so his PPM ranks slightly lower than Haaland actually, and his goal involvement also slightly lower than Haaland. Next is Danny Welbeck, who's been on fire recently, coming back from an injury for a pretty strong attacking Brighton side. So interesting to see him provide one of those more decent budget options who could compete with the likes of João Pedro and Thiago. But for me, currently his stats and his points don't really justify his selecting him in your teams yet. Next will be Richarlison and Isidore, who both have lower expected goal involvement with about 0.4 each of them, and so they don't have as much opportunities as the other forwards. Although they come in slightly cheaper, the amount of quality, the amount of attacking chances isn't as good, and so I would also not recommend buying them at the moment. So lastly will be the tier 3 bucket. There are some other forwards that, if you want to take a look at or consider, although these are not very attractive right now at the moment. Victor Gyökeres from Arsenal, who hasn't had the best start of the season so far, struggling to score goals from a very strong Arsenal team who look very well-rounded, and so their goals have come from a lot of other positions, mostly, on the wings, as well as Declan Rice in central midfielder. So Gyökeres, although he has been very good and able to hold the ball up well, and he does receive quite a decent amount of goal scoring opportunities, he hasn't been able to convert most of them so far, and so his PPM lags among the rest of the forwards. Next will be Ekitike from Liverpool, who had a sublime start to the season, scoring quite a few goals, but since the Liverpool announced the signing of Isak, his form has actually dropped way down, and also due to the fact that he's receiving less minutes with the signing of Isak. Although recently Liverpool have been playing a two-forward system with both Ekitike and Isak starting, but in this case also Ekitike hasn't been the central focus of attack for Liverpool, and so his goal scoring opportunities has gone down, so pushing him down the ladder in terms of the top forward to own. Balsamada, also a pretty interesting option, being a late signing for Newcastle, and since he has joined, he has scored a couple of goals already. My only criticism of him is that he only tends to get one goal per game. He doesn't get that big, hat-trick returns like Haaland and Mateta. He's more of those like, or even João Pedro. So he's more of a Thiago kind of option, where he does get, consistently score goals, one goal actually per match. Although he isn't as good as Thiago in terms of the amount of goals scored and the value for forwards at the moment. Lastly will be Jarrod Bowen, who's receiving the least amount of goal scoring opportunities among the forwards, although he is the talisman for West Ham, and I would also recommend to avoid him at the moment. Wait till West Ham's form continues to improve, which it has under the new manager Nuno, who has came in recently to replace Potter. So next will be the midfielders, and for me, There are a few standout options here. Semenyo from Bournemouth, whose form actually has dipped recently after a great start to the season. He hasn't had he has actually blanked a few game weeks in a row, so his form has seen a dip. He also missed a penalty, I believe, last week, scoring 0 points. So very disappointing, and his form has definitely taken a dive. Next will be Declan Rice from Arsenal, who was, on the other hand, his form has improved recently with the absence of a core central striker for Arsenal. Many of their goals have come in from the midfield position, and Declan Rice from set pieces and scoring a few goals outside the box. Also very impressive attacking performance from him so far for Arsenal, who are more known to be a defensive team, but Rice really showing that he can play both attackingly as well as defensively. And thirdly will be a bunch of central defensive midfielders, Palhinha, Gravenberch, Saka, and Caicedo, all who have very high PPM, but pretty low expected goal involvement because they do play deeper at the central defensive midfielder positions. So the top, in the order will be Saka, Caicedo, Gravenberch, and Palhinha. Although I do like Gravenberch's his fixtures the most. I think he's the best, most attractive option among the bunch here, and I'll recommend as a third midfielder you select one of these four options there because they provide very good value for your teams. Next will be the tier 2 options. There are only two tiers for the midfielders. They are Njai, Minte, Neto, Mbeumo, as well as Bruno Fernandes, and these players have more goal involvement expected goal involvement per 90 compared to the central defensive midfielders, although they come in slightly more expensive, and also depending on their form and ability to convert the goal scoring opportunities. Not all managers will be rewarded by them scoring points. So I recommend selecting a few of them selectively for your teams. Lastly, or next will be the defenders, where Gabriel is injured over here, and I do think that there are still some good defensive options, mainly the 4 picks over here. I do think you stick with a double Arsenal defense. There are still other good defensive options there with Calafiori and Timber both being very consistent performers for Arsenal, who have the best defense in the league with only 0.5 expected goal conceded per 90. And although they do come in as slightly more expensive, they still have a pretty good, decent value for money, despite their hefty price tag. So other options to consider will be Chelsea defender Chalobah, Chelsea's defense have been pretty solid, this season so far, which is quite surprising. Didn't expect that to happen, as this Chelsea defense has been historically pretty weak. And lastly will be a Crystal Palace defender. Here I show Mark Gahey, who has a high PPM of over 12. But you could go with other Crystal Palace defensive options here, as Gahey is also a slight risk for injury. I believe 75% that he starts. But other options also, if you don't want to put in Gahey, I would recommend also Mitchell, who plays at the wing back position, as well as Lacroix, who also provides a decent defensive cover for Gahey. Next will be 3 defenders who have slightly higher expected goals conceded. So these defenses haven't been, or I would say are among the tier 2 defenses, and they are Bournemouth, Sunderland, and Tottenham. So these players all came in at pretty cheap options, or below 5 million, with the exception of Senesi. Maybe selecting them as your 5th defender backup would be a good option there. And lastly would be the three third-tier defenders in this list: Ruben Dias from Man City, Tarkowski from Everton, as well as Van Dijk from Liverpool. Liverpool defense hasn't been good this season, although hoping that their form will improve with their improvement in fixtures over the next few game weeks. Everton defense also has conceded quite a few expected goals conceded. Traditionally a very strong defense, but they haven't really had the best seasons defensively so far. And lastly, Ruben Dias, who looks to be improving under improving Man City defense. So lastly, taking a good look at the goalkeepers, not much changes here. Still, Nick Pope being the most solid option with goal, as well as Royce from Sunderland to be another decent backup option. There are also two other picks that you might consider: Raya from Arsenal, as well as Vicario from Spurs, who play each other this game week, have similar PPM of around nine PPM each. Although Spurs have been much more weaker compared to Arsenal defensively this season. And lastly will be Jordan Pickford, who is a very good option in my opinion. High expected goal conceded and lower PPM among the goalkeepers. So this is how my team looks to be lined up for game week 12. I still haven't finalized the team, but likely I'll actually bring in Declan Rice, based on the stats he has shown so far. I think he's among the top two midfielders, probably bringing him in for either Enzo or Sarr. I do like Enzo's fixtures actually against Burnley away, and I think that after a poor run of form, I think this could be a fixture for him actually to grab a few goals against a Burnley side who have been pretty weak defensively and has actually conceded one of the highest chances in the league this season. I also do have three Crystal Palace players in my team: Mitchell, Sarr, and Mateta. So depending on my final game week 12 decisions, I might still choose to bench Sarr. But Crystal Palace also have a very easy fixture against Wolves, who are among the bottom in the Premier League table this season. So I expect them to win that match comfortably and keep a clean sheet. My prediction will be like a 2 or 3-0 victory for Crystal Palace. And I also have two Bournemouth players, Senesi and Semenyo, who also have a very easy fixture against West Ham United at home. Although Semenyo's form hasn't been great, and he's also a flag for an injury. But I think that this fixture against West Ham is one where he can regain his form and confidence. Other players I also have a double up Arsenal defense who face Tottenham, as well as Declan Rice. I think Tottenham is a slightly tough fixture for Arsenal, given that they do have quite a few attacking quality going forward. But Arsenal very strong favourites to win that match still and keep a clean sheet there. So counting on my defensive options there. I also do have not a great option in goal, Dubravka, who faces Chelsea side, who also have a few players in my team: João Pedro, Chalobah, and Enzo. So not the best goalkeeper selection for me this game week, but no choice for me. I don't want to waste a transfer on a goalkeeper. I also do have Mbeumo, who faces Everton at home, and Manchester United's form has been picking up recently, with Mbeumo being one of their star players so far this season. And lastly, I also do have Haaland, who is my captain against a pretty solid Newcastle team away this game week. But you never bet against the big man Erling Haaland, and you always captain him no matter what. So this is my game week 12 watch list. Gravenberch, who is decent, and Liverpool's form has been improving Liverpool's fixtures are improving over the next few game weeks. For me, he's a much more value option to own ahead of Salah, which with I think almost 3 times the amount of PPM at 9.3. Although he does have a lower goal involvement, this doesn't seem to affect the goal scoring opportunities for the central defensive midfielders this season. So going into the next few game weeks against Nottingham, Sunderland, West Ham, I do back him and Liverpool to score a few goals against weaker teams. Next will be Casemiro, who was also improving in form recently, 8.5 ppm and a 0.25 expected goal involvement. Manchester United's fixtures also are looking pretty decent. They do face Wolverhampton Wanderers as well as West Ham United, so backing them to keep a clean sheet and Casemiro to score there. And lastly will be Krupi Jr., who's still might have his minutes capped due to the return of Ivan Nilsson, but one to keep on the watch list, as he was only valued at 4.6 million, and he does have a 6.5 ppm. So that's it for this week's Game Week 12 team selection video. Make sure you like and subscribe for my Game Week 12 review coming up later next week. See you in the next video.